this asking this board for some input on some parcels identified in the NRCP that we put together half a dozen years ago or so. So welcome, Gina. And are you sure? Do you need permission to share a screen? And are you going to share your presentation or? We can't hear you. Oh. No. It shows that you're not muted. Can someone on the phone talk? Make sure it's not on our end.
Hey, it's me.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear Andrew whispering. Yep, Gina, we got you.
You got me now?
Yep. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So, hey, everybody. Yeah. As you said, I'm the planner for the town of Dryden, and I've been working with the Climate Smart Task Force to get our silver certification in the Climate Smart Communities program. And one of the actions that we can do concerns having a natural resources conservation plan, which you guys worked on. And for this particular action, there's more needed than, I'll show you my slide program and explain as we go. Okay. So there are over 100 different actions in the Climate Smart program. This one is called Pledge Element 7.8, Conserve Natural Areas. You can get anywhere from 1 to 21 points there. The core of this action is to develop a conservation plan, which you guys have already done.
Gina, are you sharing your screen?
Yeah, can you not see it?
No.
Do lands that are conserved through either state or private programs count? Sorry for the noise there.
What I was looking at is the lands that you've identified. If you look on page 33 of the plan, you've already identified areas. All right, let me try sharing again. This is frozen on me here. Okay, I'm going to unplug that. All right, I'm unplugging one of my screens. Hopefully that will help. Share.
There we go.
All right, great.
You're starting to, looks like, yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this was what I was talking about when I first started talking. So our community has what they call pledge elements. Why did it go forward? I gotta go around again. Okay, here we go. Okay. So for this action, the core of it is your conservation plan that you created. We build on that to get points in this program. So develop an open space plan or similar conservation plan within the last 10 years that covers the entire community, identifies priority areas, outlines implementation strategies, and describes an inclusive planning process. So I have already uploaded a copy of the plan. I will have to upload a copy of the meeting minutes. I can find that where it was formally adopted by the local government. So those things are available. But what we do need to add to this is the value of the parcels. So at the bottom here, the value of the parcels in respect to natural habitat connectivity, species migration, and ecosystem resilience under climate change must be demonstrated for each area. So from my reading of the plan, you have identified areas and you have identified strategies, but you haven't connected the two specifically. And that's what they're asking is what are the values of these specific parcels?
So before
So-
we jump into that parcels, I'm just curious, like, is it possible for the plan to include language to enunciate and capture partnerships with the state of New York, for example, for Hammond Hill, for land trust, or any of these other spaces that are preserved, rail trail, adjacencies or things like that? Is it just these two parcels, or can we also, potentially take advantage of rezoning? If there's anything in the zoning, someone would have to speak to that who's the liaison there.
Okay, that is my focus today is really, really specific. But as far as rezoning for conservation purposes, I think that it would be the best thing to do to write up your thoughts and send it to the planning board because they are doing the zoning rewrite. Did you get an email today from them about having a representative from each board or committee at the zoning rewrite meetings?
Yes, that was added to the agenda late, but so it's not on the copy that you got. But,
Yeah. That's great. So they do want your input.
right.
They do want all the committees to, particularly examine their fields of expertise and see how they can suggest to improve the new zoning code, from your perspective. So yeah, that's definitely going on right now.
Right.
But for this one, it's a lot simpler than that. I have talked to Christina Dravis, who has said that it would be possible for the town board next month to pass an addendum to the plan that specifically links the parcels identified with their values. So our ask for you is to put some value on those specific spaces. And like Spring, like you were saying, like that you're connected with other New York State and other entities, that could be part of the value of it. But the value of the parcels in respect to natural habitat connectivity, species migration, and ecosystem resilience for each area. So
sorry to interrupt. Which 5 areas were uploaded to the Climate Smart website? I'm
I
not sure.
believe on your plan, we have Cornell University conserved lands, FLLT easements, FLT nature preserves, municipal conservation lands, and nature conservancy lands. And I was thinking those were the 5.
Well, so those aren't necessarily
were
individual
identified.
parcels. Those are, a whole bunch of parcels. So I guess when I see the term parcel, I think in plat maps and, an actual parcel of land.
Oh, not a tax map. It doesn't have
Okay.
to be a tax map parcel.
So you're
It
just
could be
talking.
an area.
You're just talking about lands that are controlled by these different entities, be it the Land Trust or Cornell or
Well,
State of New York.
I think I'm fortunate here that Chris Goski is on the line, and he used to be in the CSD program. I am not able to see the 5 parcels that were uploaded to this program. So if I can get copies of those uploads, then I can send them to you. And then you can go from there and take those 5 parcels, those 5 identified parcels, and link them to their values.
Right. Well, we're gonna need that because we can't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but I guess I mistakenly thought that the 5 parcels that were uploaded were ones that were identified by you and part of the plan. But it sounds like that's not the case.
That is not the case.
So I will work on getting copies of the parcels, the maps of the parcels that were submitted and send them to you.
Perfect.
Okay.
Is there a defined methodology, or maybe that's the rest of the presentation on how to do the values? And I'm
No, and you
assuming
know
you
what?
mean dollar values?
It's extremely vague. And in our last meeting with the Climate Smart Task Force, I had thought maybe they were talking about dollar value, but it does not say dollar value. So I think that there is, because I've quoted right down here at the bottom, exactly what they have told us that we need to do. And I think if we are able to go by the letter of what they say, we'll be fine. So I don't think we have to do dollar values. If that, I mean, if that was an easy thing to do, then that could be done. But just how I know how it helps, with species migration, how it helps these particular areas. So yeah, you can interpret value in a number of ways, and I think that's fine, because this is right from the horse's mouth. This is what they told us they needed.
Yeah, I think we can do that. I think we just need the list of those parcels, but.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I
So-
was thinking that you already had them,
No.
because that whoever submitted that preceded me. So, and when I look in the submissions, I'm not privy to, I can't open up what was already
Okay.
submitted. I'm not allowed to do that.
That's
Okay.
fine. We'll get that list, so I'm not that worried
Yeah.
about it. And then,
So just to let you know, another part of this would be to establish a conservation finance mechanism to fund local land conservation. And somebody at our last meeting said they think that this has already been done with the county, and that if we could just document that, we might be able to get more points for that. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I am not aware of that kind of
Anything exists.
counting, and I don't, yeah, I mean, if presumably it'd be someone can you reach out to someone in one of your colleagues at county planning?
Yep, I will do that.
And
I'll also
Okay.
reach out to the director of sustainability at Cornell in case they've seen anything like this.
Yeah, so if we're paying into some kind of conservation, some kind of regional conservation fund, I think that would count. Okay.
Can you share this presentation with this group? So we have the language from these.
Yes.
I
So-
have the slides. I should have shared them in the minutes, but I didn't want to confuse things. So I'll forward this after our meeting here.
Okay. And so my next task will be to get the maps of those parcels, or at least to identify the parcels for you. And if you all were interested in doing this, it would help us get our silver certification. We are going to apply for silver certification in April 11th is the deadline. And as I said, we could probably get the town board to review an addendum to this at their March meeting. If it's not possible, that's fine. We have other things we can try to get done. And worst comes to worst, we could submit things in July, because that's the next window to submit.
What's the
But we
date?
April 11th.
So what's the date of the town board's March meeting?
Mm.
When would they need that addendum by?
Spring, is it the second or the third
13th and the 20th.
Thursday that they would look at something like this?
The 20th?
Either
is
one.
our-
Either one, if we have it.
We can do the 20th.
Yes, you can do the 20th.
Okay. So we need something before the 20th?
That would be fantastic.
Okay.
We don't have to do it outside of the meeting.
Okay. I'll see what we can pull together once we get a list of parcels. I don't think, I mean, it's not a big ask. You don't need volumes on each parcel. It's just, and those are pretty specific questions or problems.
Exactly.
I don't think it'd be difficult to write a paragraph or two about the parcels.
Okay.
And what do we get for silver certification?
Silver certification, we get bragging rights, number one. There are only a few, maybe about a dozen, Chris, is that the case? Municipalities in the state that have silver certification. That's the highest certification that presently is available. We could put up some signs around town halls saying that we have that. We also get some extra points on grant applications.
Ah, okay.
So for example, there's a WQIP road salt reduction grant that I know DPW wants to work on, and we get some extra points for having certification. So for other grants as well, when we do the common funding application, we will get extra points towards any application we put in if we have silver certification.
Ah,
Well, thank you, Gina. Anyone else have any more questions?
Okay. All right. So, yeah, anybody has any questions, feel free to email me. You want to stop by the town hall and talk to me, that'd be fine. Really appreciate your assistance on this, and
You're
see
welcome.
you soon.
Thanks for joining us. Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll circle back to this after our next presenter. And we go months without having anyone on, and we get two visitors in one day. So thanks for your patience, Chris.
No. Thanks for having me. We coordinated. We knew that it was going to be a busy night for you guys, and Gina and I decided to stack. So, thanks for making time. I don't have a presentation as such, but I will share my screen at some point. So I'm here in regards to a grant application that Cooperative Extension. Oh, sorry. My name is Chris Goski. I am the Energy and Climate Change Team Lead at Cooperative Extension. We work on a number of projects. I used to work with Gina and the town on the Clean Energy Communities program and the Climate Smart Communities program, all these acronyms. And so our office is going out for a grant through the Department of Environmental Conservation, which will go towards tree planting and some other tree care and invasives management work for a couple of parcels in Tompkins County. So we're looking at this in coordination with the town of Dryden, which my colleague Jerry presented at on Thursday, and then a parcel in the town of Ulysses, which he's actually presenting at right now, and then a parcel down the city of Ithaca. So I'm here on the invite of Jean Grace, who I've been working with in her capacity as city forester. So this grant opportunity goes to fund, like I said, reforestation, afforestation, and certain types of vegetation management. In conversation with Alice and Gina, Jerry passed along to me that there is a parcel of interest. And so I'm just here to sort of run that parcel by y'all and see if I can answer any questions about how we're thinking about structuring this project. And then I guess take any feedback, because I'm not actually much of a forester by training, this notwithstanding. You can't tell because of the light, but it is dying. So let me go ahead here. So the parcel that was passed on to me, and I could be wrong, is this stretch of the rail trail right here on Pinckney Road. This is the concrete factory down here. And so it's sort of this stretch here that then continues down this way towards Hall Woods Road. So just kind of taking a look in there, there's certainly an opportunity. The right of way for the power lines might be a bit of an issue, but there certainly is some opportunity to be doing some invasive management and doing some planting in here. Um, so the thought of the grant and what we kind of presented on Thursday was that cooperative extension, right? We've got all these volunteers, we have all these connections, and we have all this educational capacity. And so we're going to try and go out for this funding with DEC and really try and leverage that funding both to plant trees, but also develop educational programming and educational curriculum that will help get residents of these places like out on the land, helping to manage it, skill building, right? Like tree identification, vegetation identification. And our Climate Smart partner, my colleague Jerry, who's again, he's in Ulysses tonight. He's been working with the town, and so helping to connect like the act of planting a tree and caring for a tree with some of these broader like conservation and climate smart practices that the town has been really heavily invested in. That's kind of the general push there. Yeah, I suppose questions. I don't know
I think
if
it's a great idea, and we can pass a resolution or something in support of said application. I don't know,
yeah.
carry any weight in the application. I know letters of support are often useful in grant applications.
Yeah, a letter of support would be terrific. But the other thing that I would just want to get from y'all is whether or not this is like the parcel of interest. This is identified through the rail trail, and through our partners on the Climate Smart Committee. And I just want to source input as like the experts in conserving plant matter in the town of Dryden. If there's things that we should be aware of as we're kind of writing out this program and going after this funding, what do we need to keep in mind? Are there elements sort of this parcel, this plot of land here that like we should be hyper aware of? Is there a vegetation outcome, if that is a thing in forestry, that it would be good for us to be working towards, right? Because this is at the end of the day, like this is y'all's site. We just want to help do what we can to like get people on it.
Well, Chris, at the town board meeting, there was discussion around, like, you guys are going to be looking for input on what types of trees,
Yes.
or what types of plantings.
Mhm.
And I know I've heard the members on this board talk about that quite a bit in the past, about knowledge on types of trees and quite a bit of passion around trees and planting. So I don't know
Yeah.
if anyone here would want to weigh in on what trees they choose and things like that.
There's
Yeah.
plenty of parts of the rail trail that are overgrown with invasive. This is not certainly the only site like that. The site is also not open yet, correct? I thought this was closed to pedestrian traffic. Spring, is that true?
It's
Someone-
open in the one direction towards Route 13. The direction towards Freeville, there's about a mile that's not open yet.
Okay,
So from Pinckney headed towards Hall Woods
yeah.
is that okay?
Why this site over other parts of the rail trail? I guess I'm just trying to understand. By the way, Chris, I think you and I had pizza at Hopshire like 2 years ago.
Yes. Yeah,
okay,
my
good.
partner
Okay.
Leia says hi. I just
Yeah,
texted
great.
her
You tell her I
back.
said hi.
Yeah.
So why this site over other parts of the rail trail that are also equally kind of overgrown with invasives?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it doesn't necessarily have to be just this site or limited here. This site was recommended to us by, again, a member of the conservation or the Climate Smart Task Force. And the only requirements are that the site needs to be open to the public. And then there are some requirements around like density of trees that the site can support. So invasive management is part of the grant, but a bigger part of it that DEC really wants to see is actually the number of trees you can get on a site. So I think that probably had something to do with it because there's a lot of management, just again from the street view here. There's a lot of management that could be done. But it also looks like once you knock some of that invasive back, you probably could get some planting in there. But if there are other sites that might be of interest that fit that criteria, I mean, that's certainly something we can explore.
I assume the overhead power lines that run along there will limit what can be planted.
That could certainly be.
Yeah, and I think though we can plant like shrubby stuff too, so we could,
Yeah,
when we're
okay.
under the power lines, we could select like elderberries and whatever
Yeah,
things that are
that'd be
not gonna
good.
get tall.
Yep.
Yeah, and so I think that's kind of why we wanted to come to this group because this is a grant that's come up and Cooperative Extension is trying to like get at different sites throughout the county. And, when they brought it to the town, this is what was suggested to them. But I think if we, as a group, have other suggested locations that we think might be better, but fit the criteria. So like Chris said, it has to be open to the public. And the grant is really like a reforestation grant. And so it can't be a park. It can't be any area that's maintained like a park. It has to be an area that's going to be planted and then kind of let to be in a natural state. So along paths or, natural areas, which I don't think we really have designated natural areas that we have ownership of.
How big is
But if
this?
there's other sections of the trail that people walk often that think like this, they want to suggest a spot, like we could go out and look at those.
How big is the parcel again? How many acres?
It can't even be one.
It's tricky to measure in acres because it's just the
Linear.
right of way of the rail trail
Oh.
pretty much. And so whatever, handful of feet on either side the that easement contains.
Yeah,
And it's a tricky site too, because it goes under the power lines and then it really gets restricted by that development to the south and it's, it's a pretty.
Yeah.
And there's one area where that's where, the town had to go through the wetland, get that wetland permit. So it's, there's not a lot of room in there, but, I think the goal to reforest and get shade trees in there, I mean, that's, I think what I would expect something like this is just,
Yeah.
50 feet or 30 feet having a big oak or maple or something that's gonna,
Mhm.
eventually, when my kids grow up, they'll be able to walk under the shade.
yeah.
But I mean, that's what I would envision. Then, Gene mentioned a shrub understory and depending on the invasives, I don't know what, how much time to be able to spend on invasive species management because unless you could shade them out or get some biocontrol, I don't think.
Yeah.
Especially
So
if it's a forestation grant, I'm sure they don't want you to be spending all your time and money on invasive control. But
Yeah, but it
Yeah.
is allowable. It is in the grant, right,
Mhm.
Chris, so that you can do some invasive remediation before you plant. Because I think really I think with the grant, I think the ideal sites are kind of like open fields that they want
Mhm.
to reforest, but we don't necessarily have that. So I think a lot of open fields that have left to go fallow end up being populated with autumn olive and honeysuckle and multiflora rose. So until you pull that stuff out, you can't successfully put trees in. So I think the grantors do
Mhm.
understand that as part of the project.
Yeah.
Another section I was looking at, I was just kind of like looking at aerial maps of the trail today, and some of the sections that's kind of like, I don't know, maybe this complicates it, that like near to the village of Dryden. I don't know if that's like another additional layer of approval we need though, but like where it kind of goes behind like the Dryden DPW building and stuff like that. And that seems pretty open. So we wouldn't have to do a lot of invasive management, but maybe could plant rows of trees along the trail there. I don't know. I'm just thinking now like, oh, that's probably in the village. So
Mm.
maybe that's an additional layer of approval we need then.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Also, Spring House to Main Street, which I think goes behind the Dryden sewage
Mhm.
plant. That also, I mean, that's similar to
Yeah.
behind DPW,
Yeah.
there's definitely work to be done in there too.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I don't know who owns the rail trail. It would certainly be good form
Right,
for us
easement.
to, yeah, it would certainly be good form if we wanted to include that site to go to the village and let them know. But I
The
mean,
grant
again,
is also due in 2 weeks, so.
right. So we don't have an awesome amount of time. But let me just see.
And there
So
might be other rounds going out, so like if we pick a site that maybe isn't like our favorite site, but it's one that we can put in the grant and get started on
Mhm.
and get the program rolling, then if they release another round of funding, we can put in again to add to additional sites. So that's always an option too.
Well, it seems with the tight timeline that then the Pinckney Road site makes the most sense.
It
Yeah.
might make sense.
it might indeed. Um, I'm just taking a look, kind of zooming around here. That section, yeah, our big sort of constraints here, and we've run into this looking at some of the other sites, is like we can do invasive management. It's definitely part of the grant cycle. It is a 5-year grant, 5-year grant period. So I don't think they're anticipating that like we get it and then immediately need to plant, 100 seedlings kind of thing. So we can be building in like how to kind of step up the site prep. We can include a bit of like subcontracting for landscaping, right? Somebody to come in and do some work. That can be built into it too. And then part of the hope is that we can kind of build some like momentum, build some citizen momentum. So these sites might be the ones that we're including in the grant, but they might not necessarily be the only ones that like even extension could support, right? Like if we start building the machine, then we might be able to like use that. With proper invoicing done to Department of Environmental Conservation, because I wouldn't want to run afoul of their finance people. But I definitely will. I mean, any thoughts y'all have as to like what this site might need, as to any conditions that we should be aware of, and if there are like similar sites that could really benefit from tree planting, like now is the time um to throw those out there.
Are there,
Does any,
are there, sorry,
go ahead. Oh,
was
I
gonna
just
say-
say, has there been any kind of inventory on what is there currently?
No.
Well, that'd probably be key, is to
Mhm.
have, get some sort of a, doesn't have to be extensive, but just, a somewhat of an inventory of what you already have there. And then you can decide on maybe what you want to do, maybe to increase biodiversity by maybe picking some other trees that are native to the area that you want to.
Yeah. So that's something that I to the extent possible, I would certainly appreciate y'all's help with a body of knowledge that I don't possess. And is something like that, if this is the site that we feel good about and we want to put some effort towards, then yeah, grants due on March 12th, but we'll be writing it and preparing all of that type of information for submission. So certainly if anybody wants to come and do a site visit and show me around, because it's been a while since I've been down Pinckney Road, that would be much appreciated.
Yeah, just let us
can I
know.
just ask one question?
Mhm.
Probably it's a question for John, but are there, because it has to be accessible to the public, so it seems like right of ways and things like that make a lot of sense closer to roads, but are there places where we might want to proactively have water thirsty trees near not far from streams, so that it would help reduce erosion over time? I don't know if there's if that would make sense in any places, but kind of as a way to help reduce runoff from, I mean, I can't help but think of, you plant a lot of plants you can plant along ditches and things like that help clean and do capture or.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. My brain is fried today.
So
But
you're
I don't
thinking,
know if there's any glaring areas that have been a concern in the past that we would be like, oh God, if we could plant a bunch of willow trees here, this would really help, with stream runoff or something.
well, maybe if we could replant that area over by Dryden Lake that the guy keeps digging in.
I'm way ahead of you on that, but we don't own it. But everyone can see it from the road, so
Um,
I'll buy the guy some trees myself if he'd be willing to plant them in there. But
yeah, I don't think we can start planting trees along, town ditch right of ways. I mean, the ditch is kind of the edge of the right of way, the road
Yeah.
and associated right of way with the ditch. I mean, it'd be nice to plant trees along there, but I think it has to be, public space that's either
Yeah.
conversion from grassland back to forest or just an area like this along a rail trail or a trail where it's overgrown with invasives and, deer are stopping probably, trees from regenerating. We just have to go in there and try to knock back some of the invasives and plant some trees and protect them from herbivory and sit back and wait, and do a better job than the folks who planted that little stand of trees around the Dryden high-speed internet box right there that's in that street view that Chris just shared, which are all quite dead, it looked like.
Yep.
Colorado blue spruce.
Are there any spots, I'm just trying to get a map view, like at Dryden Lake Park that are areas that maybe DPW is currently mowing that we don't feel like need to be mowed and we could plant? That
we
might
don't
be
own
like a
we don't own the land though. It's DEC land that
Dryden
we
Lake Park
rent.
is, okay.
Yeah, we rent
Oh.
it from them and maintain it for them, but it's not ours.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, that might be one way to score some points on the application is to call DEC and say, hey, I noticed you've got some
wanna-
land that we could put trees on.
Yeah,
But-
your
But
own
it's
land.
it's a park though, and with like playgrounds and stuff. So I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah.
You had said earlier we couldn't.
Yeah, as long we can't maintain it in a park-like setting, but if we say like there's this section of the park we want to not mow anymore and we want to reforest and
Mhm.
plant trees in, I think they would let you do that.
There were a lot of trees knocked down along that route from the storms, so I don't know if reforesting after the tornado would count over there.
Yeah, I mean they call out one of the goal of this practice, establish new forests regeneration after a natural disturbance. That could be if there's a site there that's experienced some disturbance that could use some additional trees. That could certainly be wrapped in or shifted. Or the other one that I believe was floated conversationally was Campbell Meadows.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Is
a little,
that-
Yeah, that's kind of over in kind of a similar area. That's on Lower Creek Road and where
Mhm.
I think Pinckney and Lower Creek intersect. That is very, I don't know, that's floodplainy marshy. I don't know, would we,
Yeah,
as a group, would we want trees there or we want it to kind of be an open floodplain area?
well, doesn't that keep washing out?
Not
And
any-
would that
Since we fixed it. I think trees aren't a problem in a floodplain. You certainly have sycamores and red
Yeah, we
maples.
just have to pick the right ones.
Pick the right ones, and they do hold the banks in place, to the Springs Point, and provide some protection to that bank. It's just that I don't know. It's kind of an open picnic area now,
Hmm.
so I don't think it would be fitting.
yeah, but right across the stream from the picnic bench is on the other side of the stream.
Is not town land. That's the Finger Lakes Land Trust is gonna have possession of that. I mean, that they wouldn't be
Okay.
opposed to to riparian planting there, but it's also not, it doesn't meet the public lands criterion, I don't think.
Oh, it doesn't have to be like publicly owned as long as it's publicly accessible. So we
Yes.
did talk to the rail trail or the land trust early on in the process. They didn't have any sites. I mean, I don't know if they'd oppose Campbell Meadows specifically, but they didn't have any sites that for them met this kind of criteria, and so we weren't able to figure anything out with them. But
But I
yeah,
mean,
as long as
both sides of Fall Creek there, Campbell Meadows side, which is on the north side of Fall Creek, and then this new Finger Lakes Land Trust acquisition on the south side. And then I think someone's actually been in there and planted some trees relatively recently. And I don't know who did that, but doesn't mean you can't have more. So it'd be
It would be
good to shade the river.
Yeah. Yeah. Planted there, that
I'm
would-
also seeing a
Motion
Google
to-
Map pin for the refuge directly across the street from that Pinckney Road site that we looked at earlier. Is that? I think that's the section of Trail Spring that you were saying was maybe not open for at the moment.
It's still private, it's privately owned and we don't, that's why it's not open.
Gotcha,
We
gotcha.
don't have access.
Okay.
It's probably a bad joke, but for this group, we plant trees in like wetlands. Would that count?
I don't know.
I mean, there's like these big fields behind the town hall.
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh,
I'm kind of kidding, but
I don't know if I can.
I
that
think
there's
Campbell Meadows
no
is an
valid use
interesting.
for.
I think Campbell Meadows is an interesting suggestion, actually. Because there is
Yeah, I
that
like that
picnic
idea.
area, but then there's trails like throughout that whole little floodplainy area. And
Yeah,
I mean, I drive by there. I don't live far from there. And I don't think there are many trees in there. It's just mostly like grassy. And if we pick very flood tolerant trees, we probably could get some stuff going there.
Yeah, especially in the river.
Yeah. Well, I'd be willing to meet you out there, Chris, because I don't live far from.
Yeah.
So we could look at both Campbell Meadows and that little section of Pinckney
The
too, and
Pinckney
just walk
site.
it and see if it makes sense if one makes sense more than the other.
Sure.
Those might be the
Yeah.
most viable suggestions.
Does the town have someone who's kind of responsible for maintaining Campbell Meadows? Is that DPW? Is it, who's the land manager or steward of that?
I think DPW.
Somebody must mow the paths
Well,
at the very
yeah,
least.
I think, yeah.
We
So
were
I don't know if
advised-
there's,
we were advised last
I know
night to
D-
call Rick Young in general.
Yeah.
So he's on the
Maybe
list.
DPW
for
guys
sure.
mow it. They probably trailer a mower down there every couple weeks and just keep the paths open.
I know they mow around the picnic bench. So,
Mhm.
but if anyone's gonna know where we need trees, Rick may have some ideas too.
but are those fields mowed periodically, or is that just, there's no regeneration because of herbivory and other reasons, wetness?
I think wetness and herbivory probably.
Okay. So,
They
that-
just mow paths in there.
So I mean,
Yeah.
it'd be pretty cool to get a nice riparian forest established back in there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm liking that.
Doesn't
Yeah.
As
it
long as
doesn't
there's
look
nothing-
mowed from the road here. Like you can see the paths, but the rest of it looks pretty, I guess. Yeah.
You can have fields that are, mowed every 2 or 3 years just to keep
Oh,
woody veg that have that same appearance that aren't. But that, I just don't know, but
yeah, was
thanks
this,
for coming, Gina. Oh, she's gone.
did this used to be a field, like, before it was?
I'm assuming it was.
Yeah, I think so.
historic.
Yeah,
And so I guess, my question is more, is there something it was gifted to the town, is there something in that restricts what its uses are? I don't know, someone would have to do some research into that. You wouldn't wanna go get money for trees and then find out there's a deed restriction that,
Yeah,
Well,
prohibits.
Rick very likely would have that information. He's pretty good about knowing when people gifted land.
So I should make that a top priority call.
When
Get in
you
touch with
go to
him
the
then.
Google Street View, it's a truck with a trailer, and then there's a like a DPW looking guy on a on a zero turn mower. Like, so I think we can say the DPW probably mows that field,
Yeah, I
at
think
least
they
at the
do.
entrance.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that funny? Like down the road, there's a trailer, and then the
Yeah.
guy's right sitting there looking at the Google truck as it drives by. But
Yeah, there's
I
this
could meet you
picnic
down
bench
there,
bit. Yeah.
Chris, and we could just kind of walk around and
Yeah.
take a peek in there, and I could kind of assess how, if there are invasives in there that we'd want to pull out, or this might be, the other sites I think that we've talked about are going to need a lot of invasive management. And if we have one site in the grant that doesn't have that, it might be
Mm,
interesting.
help balance the,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one last bizarre thought. Again, these are not necessarily good thoughts, but the big dam, the really big dam. I know we can't plant anything on it or in it, but there's a lot of field space around it. And if
Where is that?
trees
Spring?
were allowed to be planted, Rick would know. It is, I want to say slightly
This is
north.
flood control dam on Virgil Creek. Is that what you're talking about?
The Dryden Lake.
Yeah, not the Dryden Lake Dam, the huge dam
The flood
that's,
control, the
The
flood
flood
control
control.
dam on Virgil Lake, or on Virgil.
yeah.
Yeah,
So you couldn't plant anything in it or on it, but around the outside of it, there's a lot of open grass space, some of which is private, but some of which isn't.
yeah,
I don't know.
Most of that open grass space is probably part of the emergency spillway that you can't plant, and it's not,
Okay.
it's open grass for a reason, and it's not,
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
and it's all hydraulic,
Mm,
and
Okay.
I'd be all for it, but
where is this
Yeah,
thing?
where are
It's
you? I
so
don't know where that
cool.
is.
if you just follow Virgil Creek out of the village and head towards Virgil,
Southward Road.
you'll see it on an aerial view. It's pretty
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah, you'll see an aerial view in the space, and it's
Like
really
north-
wild.
Like northeast of Dryden Lake.
The only cool
Yeah.
thing about that dam is what's called a dry dam. So Virgil Creek actually has run of the river through there, so it's not a dam.
Oh,
Dams up the river.
that is weird.
There's
Cool.
big culverts in there with trash screens on the upstream side the village or the town has to go in and maintain
Huh.
But it
periodically.
fills
Oh, it
when
fills.
it gets really rainy. It's pretty wild.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we'd have to ask about, because I know the flood control channel down in the city, there are regulations on where you can and can't let woody vegetation grow, so.
It also, I mean, is it sort of publicly accessible is the
Oh,
other
right.
question.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
Doesn't
not.
really look
I don't
like
think that
Yeah.
should even be considered really. It's not open to the public, Spring. It's
A lot of people go there.
No, but there's
It's a
spaces
pond.
around it
I've
that
certainly-
probably would be allowable. It'd be pushing it. And I know you can't even have a hole in it because they have to have engineers come in, and they
Yep.
probably don't want people even knowing it's there because they're afraid to mess it up. But
Yeah.
I know people walk back there, but forget I said anything.
No, no,
Strike
no.
that from the minutes.
Strike it from the minutes. I think Campbell Meadow, I think if we
Campbell
go check out
Meadows,
Campbell Meadows
yeah.
and Pinckney, unless somebody thinks of something else and could reach out to either Chris or myself and we could check it out. And the permission that you kind of got from the town, and Spring, you can
Mhm.
speak to it too, is it was kind of open-ended, like the town is in favor of this project and it wasn't really tied to a specific location.
Mhm.
No, or the town is very much in favor of it. But the board did not have like instantly a location,
Like you must
in
do it here.
mind.
Okay.
but
Yeah.
saying you need to talk to the conservation board, you need to talk
Yeah.
to Rick Young, and like there's all these people that would so into this.
Yeah.
So is there
So
any,
then, yeah, those sites, I mean, Um,
And if you guys said it was a good idea, maybe that space behind the Dryden Town Hall isn't the worst idea. But we don't really want people tromping around in wetlands and bothering the little tadpoles. So
Yeah.
never mind.
I think until we have, like, we talked about maybe developing and having like a boardwalk and interpretive trails, and I think until we have that, I don't know if we could strongly argue that it's like a public access space.
Yeah. And I know there was a place that they used to have. This is where Rick would be helpful. Like, I know there's a place where they used to have like community gardens and things that are accessible that were not in the wetlands. I'm not sure those are in the 7 acres that are being looked at or not.
Mhm.
So, but again, not a huge amount of space, but throwing that out there. But I agree. I like the idea where you guys are talking about on the meadows.
take a look at that.
So you said it's a DEC grant, is it a
Mhm.
QIP? What program under DEC is it, do you know?
Core community something reforestation.
Community reforestation.
Yeah.
So I think it's part of their like 25 million trees initiative or whatever
Mhm.
that
Okay,
the governor initiative was.
wood
So
is
I think
good.
that's
And this site, you know, Campbell Meadows seems like it's the best site as far as you're not gonna have that much invasives that you're gonna have to deal with.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's a plus right there.
Yeah.
Do you need to know what trees you're going to plant before you do a grant?
At time of submission, yeah, we'll need to have a pretty
A
good
list
sketch
of-
of what what the proposed treatments and planting looks like.
I trust Gene, as long as they're natives and not cultivars, we'll be all right.
Yeah.
Take your forestry hat off, or your forester hat.
Yeah, your city forester hat.
Seedlings,
They do-
stock, not named
I
varieties.
love sycamores.
I
More
love
sycamores
sycamores.
on the river would be great.
Hmm.
Are you gonna be putting, you know, tree tubes around them so that they're
Yeah, we're
protected?
gonna have to. We'll
Yeah.
have to do. So we've talked
Mhm.
about that as deer protection, deer
Right.
exclusion.
Sycamore, red maple.
But yeah, I
So
mean,
we can go look at that, and
Yeah.
then if anybody had like sycamores, whatever, if you have like species suggestions, just send them on to me, and we'll keep a running list and go down there and see what's already there and what we can get more of. And
Pin oak,
Swamp white oak. That's a good one.
Swamp white oak, yep,
I like pin oak.
My favorite tree.
pin oaks. Pin oak might be okay.
and
They're a
if
little
you- I mean,
sensitive to soil pH, so we'd have to.
Yeah, aren't
Check
they
that, but-
dry soil type species? Pin oaks?
Quercus palustris.
Maybe I'm
It is
thinking.
Quercus palustris.
Hmm?
Usually find them in like wet, sandy areas though, like not mucky wet, but like sandy wet areas.
Hmm.
So we can dig a hole there, see what kind of dirt we got.
Yeah,
Like I said,
I mean, if this board could think about a letter of commitment, we might be able to put a handful of starter sentences together if that'd be helpful. But yeah, a letter of support would be huge as a kind of endorsement of the ethos of it all.
So we won't meet again before the deadline,
Hmm.
but sometimes we do just circulate letters of support, and if we get the group to be in favor of it, we can pass it back before.
So then, would that be helpful for me to get started and pass on to someone and see if that goes well?
Or
Or
you can send something to me, Chris, and I'll
Sure.
get it around. Thanks. Do you have my email? You copied on the email Gene sent me about this.
yes.
I think I forwarded you Jen's email
Mhm.
to give you the Zoom link.
Oh,
So you
okay.
should have it.
Perfect.
So I think Chris has it.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, thank you very much for sort of taking your time for me and going over this with us.
I appreciate your time and appreciate
Yeah.
everyone's input and spring good suggestions. You come up with some good ones, and everyone else, and look forward to seeing this get funded.
Me too. All right.
If only we were silver stamped. climate
Silver
smart,
certified
we'd
already.
get-
We
we'd
do.
get more-
We've already, Sherry and I have already started to write some very strongly worded passages about how good it would be for DEC to co-fund some of their, and oh, wouldn't it just be a darn shame if climate smart community couldn't get all this funding,
Yeah,
So,
guilt them into it.
mhm.
All right,
Uh,
so Chris, let's connect then and
Yeah. Yeah,
pick a
yeah.
time to go take a look at those in the near future.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, terrific. I'll see y'all.
Thanks,
Thanks very
Chris.
much.
Appreciate it, Chris.
Appreciate the time.
Bye.
And the last new business on the agenda that I didn't put in here was, we all got that email from Tony about volunteering, Tony Salerno, thanks, Craig. They're looking for a planning board liaison to sit in on their special zoning code rewrite meetings.
I thought we had a liaison.
No,
Okay.
There should be a planning board liaison here,
Yeah,
but they're
anyway, so
but that used to be David Weinstein.
he used to be the planning board liaison to the conservation board.
Right.
yeah.
So the issue on the table is looking for a volunteer from the conservation board to sit on these once a month, first Thursday of the month, I think it is. Meetings and just provide input to the board that they'll then bring back to the conservation board, and then we can provide more input at the next meeting, so.
Yeah.
If anyone's interested, you can either speak up now or speak up later, but it would be good to have someone representing the conservation board on this important zoning rewrite.
For what it's worth, I'm gonna be sitting in for Dan Lamb in his spot the next couple months because he's teaching on Thursday nights. So I'll be there, but I'm passionate about it, but I don't have the expertise all of you have. So. Although for what it's worth, I'm very committed to the dark skies lighting, so I'm gonna try. I think it is important. There's a lot of focus around making it easier to build, which is important. But it also means being very careful in your zoning from an environmental standpoint. So just putting that out there.
Well, we don't need a volunteer again this minute, but think about it. If you're interested, let me know and I'll forward your name to Tony. If I don't hear from anyone, then I'll assume there's no interest, and I'll either decide to do it or tell them that we pass again.
I've already posted their first meeting on the web, on YouTube. And it's accessible on the web.
No.
On the website at the, so.
When was their first meeting?
First of this month, or the
Okay.
first Thursday of this month.
The next one's next Thursday, 7th,
Next one's this Thursday.
right?
That'll be their second.
Which is next Thursday.
Yeah, I think they're doing it every 2 weeks for the next month or two, but I can.
It's every month,
send it up.
spring.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna have a few extras because of how much they have to work through. So I thought they were gonna have a few extra meetings, but I'll get confirmation of that this Thursday at the meeting. This is the regular zoning board meeting. It's not the special project meeting.
According to Tony, their next zoning rewrite meeting is next Thursday, the 6th.
Right. I think what it is their zoning rewrite meetings are like offset from the regular zoning
Right.
So every
Yeah,
once a month, they're
different
doing a
from-
regular zoning board, but they're having some zoning rewrite meetings in addition, which is why I said 2. Because zoning is getting together twice a month. But the rewrite meetings are once a month, you're right. Then the zoning is once a month. Hence, never mind. I warned you I was off a little bit, so I'm sorry about that.
That's fine. Thank you. So as I said, just let me know ASAP if you're interested. Old business, any update, Gene? Were you able to, did you make it out there on Saturday with Ann?
Yep, I met Anne out there and then Gwen also met us. And so I think we have a lot of options there. I was gonna talk with the Nature Conservancy again because it's mostly open. There's some like raspberry bushes. I think there's a buckthorn in that little patch. And there's some poplars that have started to seed in that are pretty small. So I wanted to see if they were committed to those poplars or not. But I was thinking just planting like kind of like a row of trees along the trail that you walk in. So you have the parking lot, and then you have a grassy area that you kind of walk in to get into the nature preserve. So like a row of trees along that path, I think would be really nice. And I was thinking like 3 to 5, we could like easily fit there. And like if the group wants to do more, like if we want to try to like rehabitat that whole, revegetate that whole open spot, we could, but that would be a bigger project. So I don't know how much we wanted to dive into. I think, my suggestion was initially just like some trees and a plaque, like to kind of show our appreciation for everything that Bob has done for the community.
Yeah.
Um,
Could we roll it into that reforestation grant? There's public space.
yeah. So that would be the Nature Conservancy would have to,
They would have to apply or they just have to sign off on it?
I think they would have to sign off to let Cooperative Extension use that site for the grant.
In 2
I
weeks.
could mention it to Chris. And
2
I don't
weeks.
know, I know we just have such a tight timeline right now. The
Yeah.
grant it took a long time for DEC to finalize it all and put it out. The window for applications was not super long.
Well, I think, I think going ahead with just a smaller scale project now is a good idea. And then, in the back of our minds, we can keep it that, if we could maybe next year, round 2 of this reforestation grant or some other similar opportunities, funding opportunities, we can work with Nature Conservancy to apply for money to do a bigger project, more robust project.
So I feel like I'm very well qualified logistically to select trees, order them, install them. I'm not sure how we should be like collecting funds or who holds that money. I don't logistically, I don't know how to do any of that.
Yeah, I don't remember when they bought those benches, they had people buy the benches. How did that work? The rail trail.
Well, they had their own, the Friends of the Rail Trail was the non-municipal part of that group.
Okay.
So could the Friends of the Rail Trail accept donations for this, like on our behalf?
That would be probably our bookkeepers. The question for our bookkeeper, Amanda Anderson. I can pass it by her tomorrow and have her contact Eugene
Okay,
if you want.
yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
Because Ann and I were like, well, maybe we set up a GoFundMe, and then we're like, how do GoFundMe work? And like, are any of us then personally responsible for that? And like, I don't know how any of that works. I've never set something like that up. So if it could go through, like if the rail trail, Friends of the Rail Trail already has an existing path to accept donations, and then that might be, but maybe they don't want it because it's not adjacent to the rail trail. So maybe that would be a problem for them to accept the donation. I don't know.
I'll inform her tomorrow and have her give you a call. And talk to you about talk it from a municipal perspective because I don't know.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Well, Gene, you're not gonna, are you gonna plant all the trees yourself? You don't want any help?
No, I will definitely solicit y'all to dig holes for me, but
Good,
I mean,
good.
like, ordering the trees and putting them in the ground um, is not the stumbling block at this point. It's kind of like, how do we logistically accept funds and who's gonna pay for the trees
Right.
and do we want, I guess the other question is, do we want to plant these trees like this spring? Or do we think that it's gonna take us long enough to like figure all this out and raise the money that we should? Cause spring would be like planting them at like the end of April or beginning of May versus waiting till the fall.
How much money do you have to raise?
If we buy like bare root trees wholesale, those are like, I would say estimate $150 each. And then if we want to put up a plaque, I'm not sure. I would say probably maybe another, I don't know, say $400 for a plaque. If we want to get like a rock with like a nice plaque on it,
You said 850 per tree?
150.
Oh, that's way easier. Okay.
You got
And then we
$1,000.
probably would want to have like some buffer too, because we're going to need to buy cages to put around the trees to protect them from the deer. So, maybe say $200 per tree just to make sure that we're like. Can
Yeah,
buy
so if you had
everything we-
$1,200 or $1,400, you'd be set.
Fine.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not talking
Okay.
about needing to raise thousands and thousands of dollars. Do this.
Do you have a question, Tim? See your hands raised there.
No, but if you guys are done talking about the trees, I was just gonna tell everybody that in the chat, I put up a bunch of ideas that I put together about the first briefing we got tonight on how to assign value to natural areas. So you guys can take a look at that, see what you think.
Oh, wow. Mhm.
I'll
Um,
echo Spring and say that I don't think fundraising should be a concern. I think the money's there's probably just a few people who will donate that money.
Yeah. I think we just need to like what's the like who holds the money? They just writing checks to me in the honor system. I'm gonna buy trees with it and not, buy a plane ticket to Colorado or something.
Well, I would trust you, Gene, but I don't know. I don't know.
Yep, I'll give you some too, Gene. Don't worry.
It's under $5,000. I wouldn't be too stressed.
Right?
I know.
Yeah, the IRS is gonna come after me. The whole thing.
It's not capital funds.
All right, well, let's if the rail trail can accept the money, that would be probably seem the
we're-
easiest solution for me, but
That would be good. We didn't ask your question though about when we were gonna plant, did we?
oh yeah.
Do you think April is doable at this point? That's only 2 months away. It might be safer to say fall, but I worry that we'll kick it down the road too far, that we'll be back in the same
I
thing.
know.
Saying, we gotta get something going by October.
I know. I think the money, I think there's enough people that would want to kick in money for something for Bob that raising the money in short order probably wouldn't be hard. I would have to, if I want to put the trees on the same order that I'm getting for the city for the spring, that would have to be done in the next couple weeks. Within probably definitely by the end of March, availability of different species, it's less and less as we get closer to April because people are just snatching it up. So I mean, if we want to go through with it, I could order the trees and that bill doesn't come due till the end of April, so we have that time to raise the money. We just have to figure out what the mechanism is, who's gonna hold the money and then pay for the trees when they get here.
Well,
So,
hopefully
I
we
mean,
can resolve that in the next couple of days. It sounds like
Yeah,
Lauren.
so how about I'll talk with what'd you say, Amanda, is that her name, Lauren?
Yeah,
So if that seems like a very viable route, then maybe we can do it in April. If that seems like that's a dead end and we kind of have to do a little more logistics, I think if we really commit to doing it in this October, that would definitely give us more time we could really have a wider probably selection of the exact species we want, and it would be a little bit less of a rush probably. So I'll have that conversation either tomorrow or this week whenever I can connect with the town person, and then I can report back to everybody what I find out.
Thank you. Well, let's circle back to the new business and our natural resource conservation plan write-up. Tim put some, looks like very good ideas in the chat, about values of these natural areas. And, you know, again, I didn't think it would be too hard to come up with, you know, ways and, you know, a couple of paragraphs about the parcels. It's just, you know, we need to know what the parcels are, and then we can, you know, pick off areas of these or items on this list or others, things that we think of that might fit those parcels. So I guess just logistically how you want to handle it. I mean, if, you know, presumably I'll get a list in the next couple of weeks. That is a pretty short timeline too. So I guess I just envision setting up some kind of Google Doc, and we can all go in there and edit it and then, you know, make changes and try to write something up so they can get it in there, or we can get it to the town board before the 20th of March. Lauren, can you capture those?
Yeah, it'll save it in the chat.
Can you just copy and paste into it before? So I don't have to wait for the minutes to get them.
Well, yeah,
Or maybe Tim, since you wrote them down, can you just email them to us as well? Can you copy it off that and just email it?
Yes, I can email the document to you.
Thank you, Tim. It's impressive. You obviously weren't listening to the conversation as you're writing all this.
He's typing.
Multitasker.
Yeah.
So the youth commission did not meet
According to Lauren, it meets tomorrow.
tomorrow.
tomorrow, that's right, because of the short month.
Yeah,
So there's no update on that.
No.
And then newsletter submissions, Anne sent an email to Cassie asking about something. Anyway, if anyone has any suggestions or anything they want to submit, I know we talked about it briefly last month. If anyone has anything they want to submit, just feel free to either submit it independently on our behalf or submit it on your behalf, or submit it to the group for our review before we submit it as a whole. I think either way works for me. I trust all of you to write what you think is the right thing, submit it.
Would it be worth coming up with like 12 tips of the month so that we would have them basically in the bank ready to go for, you know, this is the time to plant butterfly bushes, or, you know, here's a link to a great way to fertilize your garden that's chemical free, or anything. I know that, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of, like, I don't know if it might just help having, even if we don't have articles, just having tips of the month or something like that, just to try to put it front and center.
It would be good. What we need is an outreach coordinator on this board.
We do. We need one for all the boards. So-
That person is not me. I'm good at what I do, but I'm terrible at outreach and communicating what I do with the
I
public.
think,
Which is on me.
wasn't Kate interested in that?
She was. She's not here. Or she is. And she's a couple of times, you know, expressed interest in submitting. So.
Could that be an agenda item for next? Would that be an appropriate agenda item for next month? Like, in 10 minutes, everybody brainstorm as many tips of the month as we can come up with, and then Kate could then sift through and decide which ones to use, and create a calendar.
I think it's okay to put it on the agenda. I don't think it's okay to volunteer Kate to sift through them. I'm not counting.
But she's not here.
That's her
Let's see, we
punishment
could
for not
lose.
showing up. You get assigned things. Everyone knows this.
Well, if I can start assigning tasks to people who aren't here, I might have some. But no, we can certainly do that, and then we'll see if we can get a volunteer to sift through them and maybe share some out, but. I guess maybe I should circle back to the top. Any reports from anyone?
No, I was not at the EMC meeting because of my whole job situation, but yeah, so I have nothing to really report.
There wasn't an ag committee
There was
meeting.
no ag committee meeting.
Spring, anything from the town board that feels germane to this group?
There are gonna be some public hearings coming up around some new businesses coming in. We had but in existing facilities. We did have a really great presentation. Do you know where the greenhouses are that used to be the orchids greenhouses on Route 366? I'm getting nods. So the owner of that facility now came and gave a presentation. They're working on taking one of the existing buildings, and they're all about reuse and repurposing that into 4 apartments. And then there's I guess, far past end of life trailer on the property that they're going to get rid of and build a model tiny house there. And then one of the greenhouses, I believe it's a greenhouse, is going to be converted into a wood shop for repurposing and refurbishing materials through deconstruction. And then they're going to also have a small store as well. So it's taking a little time, but I was very excited to see that project presented. So that's I think the big update from the past meeting.
Nice, thank you. Well, unless anyone has anything else. A motion to adjourn. I had a motion to adjourn. Second from Craig. All in favor? Night, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.